Thank you for coming with us tonight. Are you ready for the interview?
I am. Thank you.
Tell us your name.
My name is Sir Arthur Eddington.
Tell us a little about your project.
In brief, my experiment was to prove Einstein's theory of relativity. Einstein had previously published the theory a few years prior. The issue is that it was only proven mathematically. This experiment was performed to prove general relativity with physical evidence.
What were you guys trying to do or find?
We were attempting to use a solar eclipse, to prove that gravity bends light. We took photographs of sunlight around the moon. It was by observation of light rays around the moon, and the curvature thereof, that proved Einstein's theory of relativity, specifically that gravity can indeed bend light. We used advanced technologies at the time, including a large telescope and advanced clocks.
Where did the project or experiment occur?
Other scientists and I observed the 1919 solar eclipse in two locations. Two of us took a large lens telescope with us to the island of Principe, just west of Africa. The other team traveled to Brazil. The solar eclipse went around the equator, and it was somewhat difficult to get to. The weather was not perfect either. Before the eclipse, there was a massive thunderstorm on the island of Principe. Although the sky was more clear in Brazil, most of the important data and photographs were from my team in Principe.
What other significant events were happening around the world at that time?
The most significant event that had occurred recently was the Great War. I was almost drafted into the war, but numerous scientific societies and branches of government appealed on my behalf. Their argument was that the research I was performing was more important than me fighting and possibly dying in the war. I was raised a Quaker, and I am thus a pacifist. I did offer to provide myself as a medical aid during the war, but luckily the war ended before I had to stop research and join the war effort. Unfortunately, the war slowed down scientific progress. It was difficult for scientists during that time to communicate, especially because most of the most renowned scholars were from Germany. At certain points, we had to smuggle in letters from Germany just to share research and findings. Additionally, there were earlier attempts to prove general relativity during a solar eclipse, but the war broke out shortly before the experiment was meant to occur.
Who else was involved in the project?
The project was led by two other scientists and myself. We had many people assisting us, as it was quite a large project to bring large equipment across an ocean to a tropical island. Joining me at the island of Principe was a clockmaker named Edwin Cottingham. He brought advanced timepieces, and he assisted in keeping time with the solar eclipse, and for figuring out the time in which certain events would occur.
What was your role in the project?
My role was mainly to be the team leader for the experiment. Furthermore, I was the one to analyze the data afterwards and release it to the public. Although my name is the name most associated with the experiment, the entire physics community of the time shared in analyzing and repeating the results.
What impact did your project have on the physics community?
Well, as previously mentioned, the project had a major effect in physics. It disproved part of Newton's theory and proved Einstein's general theory of relativity. More experiments would be done to observe light from distant stars and measure the deflection of light from other celestial bodies. The 1919 experiment is what truly brought relativity into the limelight of science. Not only did the experiment advance the research of relativity, it also created a public curiosity, and more resources and grants were given by governments to research further on the subject. This experiment also caused international universities to consider teaching it, as before it was a select group of mostly European universities to teach it, one of which I taught at myself.
What did Einstein think of the experiment?
Einstein was, of course, joyful to hear of the success of the experiment, as it did prove his theory. Shortly after the experiment in 1923, I published a work based on the physical and mathematical findings of the experiment and the analyzation, called The Mathematical Theory of Relativity. Einstein later said that I was able to convey the theory better than anyone else in the world. I have been known by many to be able to explain complex theories in layman's terms and in advanced mathematical forms as well. The fact that I could explain such an advanced concept simply allowed for a larger and better public reception that shaped the world of physics as we know it.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.